I don't know what happened. I was telling Matt and Tori, if we were in a live room together, I would be just fine, but the Zoom facilitation is a challenge for me. So thank y'all for bearing with me in my ongoing quest to become a better facilitator. Welcome. And just so y'all know how I come to this work, I am the co-director of The Graduates, which is a performing ensemble of formerly incarcerated women here in Louisiana. And I'm also the co-director of the LCIW Drama Club, which we've been making theater at the Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women and Dance and Performance since 1996. So I know this work, and I know the power that this work can have to change individual lives and family lives and community lives and our whole country. So I'm super excited about this work, and I'm very excited to meet several of you tonight. I've heard a lot about you, but haven't met you yet. So I'm excited to meet you in the Zoom room, and I can't wait to meet you in real life one day soon. So I just want to go over a few of our housekeeping things for this evening. We've got when people speak, we're asking that you really try to limit yourselves to 2 minutes, just so we can really hear from everybody. If you have a question or a comment, please put it into the chat. And if you don't see your question appear, know that that means that your question may be very similar to a question that someone else has put in there. Um, we're going to keep the folks who aren't panelists muted until we get to the community conversation section. And uh, but you're still, we would love to hear, if you need to put a heart up or an amen or a thumbs up or anything like that, please feel free to share your reactions. Have I missed anything, y'all? All right.
Actually, Kath, real quick,
Yes, please.
we're not going to be muting you all because we don't know really how to do that. I mean, I know I could figure it out, but we're just going to trust people that we're going to ask you not to speak, when the panelists are speaking. I think we
Matt,
can
if you want to
host and
share the
self.
hosting, if you want to share the hosting with me, I know how to do it. Because sometimes too, it's not just the people just talking, which I know that they won't, but sometimes they have background noise and I don't realize it sometimes, and we can mute that out
Sure.
for them.
Um, Great. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce one of the co-coordinators of ARCH. ARCH stands for Arts, Racial Justice, Culture, and Healing. And one of your co-coordinators is Mr. Matt Schwarzman. He's a local theater artist and educator. And he's going to share a few more things with y'all and introduce Mr. Randy. Take it away.
So, good evening, everybody. I'm been on some of the emails I've sent to you. I'm the keeper of the database and the technology person, which means everybody's in trouble. But here are the household rules. These are the ones that Kathy just went through. It's a pretty relaxed session, and many of us know each other. And I think more importantly, I would say, the point of this is really to figure out if we might want to work together over the long term on something that we know is going to take a lot of work and a lot of time to make happen. So, so in that spirit, I wanted to introduce Randy Fertel, the Fertel Foundation, and the Improv NOLA conference. He was one of the first people I spoke to about this project because of my having gone to Improv NOLA several times, the conference, and felt like it could be a great seed for what we're trying to do, which is to really advance New Orleans' ability to take advantage of the resources that we already have. And as a funder, I think it was really important, particularly for tonight, that we have someone in the community beyond someone who supports us directly, which we appreciate, someone who is a spokesperson for a certain point of view on, how things get done in the community and what funders do. And so we've asked him to speak on that for a couple minutes. And then because we dragged him away from something else in order to do that, he's going to leave, but he's part of our organizing group. So he'll be back next week. Randy, would you share your thoughts with us?
Thanks, Matt. Be happy to. So I'm here in New York, but have, as Matt said, has, I guess, been part of this since Matt got it started. The Ruth Fertel Foundation is helping in a small way to fund this conversation. And I've been asked to reflect on what I hope will come out of this project. Well, to answer that, I want to tell you about another civic project like this that I was involved in. A few years back, a number of groups came together to create a closer walk, an online site that invites people to explore the history of jazz in the locations around the city where it emerged and was carried on. It's a geolocation app. So if it's on and you go to Congo Square, that page that explores Congo Square and by linking you to archives around the city with material about Congo Square, that pops up. It's very cool. It's called a closerwalknola.com. You go there and then save it to your home site, to your home page on your device, and it's called a it's called a what's it called? Anyway, it's not an app, because if it were an app, it would take up your whole memory. So it works through the internet. So anyway, it was created by a loosely connected group led by myself and Dr. Ira Padnos of the Ponderosa Stomp. We teamed up with WWOZ, the great public local music station, to make sure it got eyeballs. It's gotten plenty. When the Karnofsky building on South Rampart Street, the home of the family that adopted Louis Armstrong, when it collapsed during Hurricane Ida, we got tens of thousands of hits from all over the world. All of that is to say this. One of the best things about that project is the name, a perfect description of what the site is, a closer walk. And that emerged from a meeting, and we can't remember who came up with it. I love that about it. The point is that a lot of joint venture civic efforts like this rarely work because conflicts emerge and egos begin to take over. It didn't happen with a closer walk, and it doesn't seem to be happening here. This is a joint venture like that. And if we keep our eyes on the prize, we're going to have the effect that a closer walk has had. Thousands of eyeballs. A closer walk asks people to embrace the culture of New Orleans. Well, the culture of New Orleans comes out of the community that suffers a lot of imprisonment and a lot of prison time. So this is another way of serving that community and that culture. And that's the prize. That's what we're working together toward. I hope that's what we're all, well, I hope you agree that's what we're all about. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Randy, and thanks for the support that you've given this work thus far, and we look forward to more in the future. I want to point out, before I introduce our other co-coordinator, I want to just point out right now we're kind of a small planning team of 5, but we're part of this tonight, and all of these conversations is about broadening that circle. But 2 of the other members who are going to be facilitating other other of these conversations in the next 2 weeks are Miss Omar Robinson. Say hey, Alma.
Hello. Hi.
She's visiting, listen to me. She's in California in Los Angeles and has done an incredible amount of work in California. You're not in California tonight. Where are you?
I'm not in Los Angeles. I live in San Francisco. No shade on LA, but I just wanted to make that clear. But yeah, thank you, Kathy.
Yeah. Yeah, Alma has done some great work around the arts and prisons and the prison industrial complex throughout the state of California. So it's
Thank
been
you.
really great to have you as your wisdom in this room, and then also Jean Menere. I don't know if you can wave hello. Jean is having some challenges, technical issues, but cool. Since I'm still just seeing your beautiful picture, we'll just leave it at that, Jean, and thank him. He's with the Ella Project and has done a lot of work around the arts and social justice work in New Orleans. So thank you, Jean, for being a part of the team. And then now to your co-coordinator of Arch, Tueri Burns, who is also the executive director of Bar None by Design, who has been doing work at the intersection of dismantling the prison industrial complex and the arts for decades. We're so honored to be working with you and taking this to the next level. She is going to be your timekeeper for this evening, and so I'm passing the ball to you, Tueri.
So good night, everybody. I hope everybody that's I'm in Atlanta right now, but I'll be back home Tuesday, and I hope that everybody that's home is safe and didn't get any damage or too much damage. And we are praying for everybody that's home in New Orleans with that storm. With the tornado that went through our city in record time. So the timekeeping rules are as follows. As Kathy said, you have 2 minutes to answer. Let me reach really quick. 2 minutes to answer your question. You may get a little grace. To maybe like an extra 30 seconds or so. I'll give a 1 minute warning by my hand, just saying, one or waving my hand like this. And then another one at 10 seconds to let you know, and I'll just do this, let you know that you have 10 seconds left so you can start kind of wrapping it around, reeling it in. And I know that can be hard for some people because I know I could talk, so I could go. So, I appreciate a good timekeeper. So that's really it. We just really want to kind of gather some really good information. That's why you all were chosen. We know that this is, we hope and know that this is near and dear to you as it is to us. And we want to bring what you all are bringing here to the rest of the world, because the goal is to create a better and stronger OPP for those that are behind the wall and those who are working to maintain a structure there. So thank y'all for being here with us tonight.
Tueri, you want to introduce Ayana?
Let me tell you, I was about to jump off and text the sergeant, because I was like, let me hear she ain't on here. Okay, so before we dive into the panelists, and I'll tell you this one at the end. So before we dive in, we are going to have a performance, and then at the end, we'll have another performance too. So right now, I want to introduce my really good, amazing, beautiful sister and dear friend who I have been friends with now for 20 plus years. Ayana is, this is as dear to me, this is as dear to her. We have done this work around the prison industrial complex through this same exact thing that we're doing now with arts and activism and education and prisons around this entire country. Since 2002. I think, with a national organization called Blackout Arts Collective. And prior to that, we were artists and perform and activists locally. And I had been doing the work before, and Ayana brought me back home and wrote me back into Blackout Arts Collective. And we started doing this work and literally going into all of these prisons, from juvenile to Supermax, anybody who opened their doors to us. And Ayana is a national licensed counselor. She is, amazing counselor, thoughtful counselor. She uses art therapy as well. And she is also an artist first. She's an amazing mother. I could just go on about Ayana, but no further ado, Mama Fire.
Good evening. Thank you to my beautiful sister. And thank you to Icon, my beautiful sister. I see you. This is Hope is Dope. I'm sick. I'm tired. I'm sick and tired of hoping for a revolution. It's so hard out here. We have nothing. And nobody seems to be fighting but me. And I'm a fool, so used to making sick mistakes, tired of the berates, sick and tired of hoping for a revolution. Can you help me with the cards that were dealt to me? I got the joker, the life choker. Can't you see? I'm struggling over here, over there, and everywhere. Ain't there a safe place for me? Caught between the dopamine, the reoccurring American dream. And all I want is fairness, justice, equality. But there's no one, none. From being Black and a woman, always under attack, two-strike phenomenon, 1-2 punch. They down in me. I'm too tired of getting dissed, disproportionately disadvantaged, disenfranchised, and disturbed. I tried marching and sitting in, got my voice sore and feet aching, sick and tired of hoping for a revolution. Some change to break these chains that hold me to who I've always been, irrelevant, invisible, invincible, addicted to the pain, addicted to the hoping for a change. Somebody come change it for me. Change this world to love me, respect me, protect me. And the only thing I can change is me. Hope is dope, baby, but revolution is real. When you need no pill to see you clear, to treat you fair, some self-justice, because no one can really see, hear, change me, but me. I'm sick and tired of hoping, of doping, when the revolution is me. When I change what I can change, the revolution is that I be my best, work hard to shift my own existence. Revolution. And when we all do it, we will be undeniable. No more sickness. We ain't tired, because when we gave up the hope, we gave up the false high of dope. We fixed us and got lighter to fly. I hold your hand, you hold mine, and rise. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ayana. Yes, this is why we need art in our lives, to raise the spirit and remind us of why we're here and what we're doing and how important our work is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are going to shift into the panelists introducing themselves. And I believe we've got one more who might be coming to where he is working on that. But until she joins us, I'd like to ask Shikandria if you would if you wouldn't mind opening. And I've asked everybody in 2 minutes to tell us just about yourself and what brings you to this table.
Hello, my name is Shakandria Icon Sibley. I want to first of all thank my big sister, this is my big sister, Tueri, and also Ayana, who I watched from afar years ago do this work. I heard about them and Blackout Collective doing work with incarcerated people a long time ago when I first got into the poetry scene, and I didn't know that my trajectory would lead me down the path of also being a teaching artist in those same kinds of facilities. But I've worked with the United States Federal Correctional Facility at in Pollock, Louisiana, as well as the one in Oakdale, worked with a couple of organizations and schools here with the youth who are incarcerated. I'm literally just a teaching artist who really believes in the power of art to move and change things, as we've already seen with the opening from Ayana. As you said, Kathy, art is something that is so necessary. And I think Tu was one of the first people I saw that took that mission and put it together with what she already did as an artist. And I'm just here following in those big footsteps and trying to make my mark to build some kind of reform. Like Ayana said, first internally and then outward. So I'm grateful to be here tonight.
Beautiful. Thank you, Shakandria. Rachel, will you introduce yourself next, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm very grateful to be a part of this panel doing this work. My name is Rachel Lewis. I am originally from Ohio, but I've been in New Orleans for 12 years now, working in education. Am I frozen? Everyone else is frozen. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So I've been I'm currently serving as the Chief Academic Officer at the Travis Hill School, which is inside of the Juvenile Justice Intervention Center and inside of OPP. So we are high school. We serve students ages 10 to 21. And we have arts education throughout the year. And in the summer, we also do a summer arts program where we bring in some local artists to do specifically just arts programming. And definitely would love to see more of that for everybody inside of the facility instead of just our high school age students.
Great. Thank you so much, Rachel. Next, Laura, will you introduce yourself to us, please? Uh-oh, I might have lost Laura. Here she comes, here she comes.
I did not know I was a panelist. I had no idea, but I'm happy to be here. I'm Laura Naughton. I guess I come to this from two different perspectives. First, I'm the founder of the Compassion Program at Angola Prison. That's been active for the past 5 years. We've been teaching 8-week compassion cultivation training courses and inviting community members to Angola for shared workshops and fellowship, as well as day-long conferences discussing issues that are urgent within corrections through the lens of compassion. And then I also have been a faculty member at NOCA, the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts, the Arts Conservatory High School in town, for the past 16 years. And so I'm really interested in bringing these two pathways, arts and corrections reform together. So this project is really near and dear to my heart, and I'm so happy to be with you all. I'm going to be actually on and off camera for a bit. I'm sorry I didn't know I was a panelist, but I will I will share my heart and my words as much as possible this evening.
Thanks so much, Laura. Thanks for improvising with us tonight. Sorry about the communication mix-up, but we're really grateful to have you and your experience here in the room, in the Zoom room. All right, and Ayana, we have met you through your work. Now tell us a little more about yourself, please.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Ayana Molina, and Suari said a lot. Suari is my forever sister. We've been doing this work and really connected deeply through this work, and that means I'm hers and she's mine forever because of all the blood, sweat, and tears we put into Lyrics on Lockdown, which was a beautiful tour that we did as a group, Blackout Art Collective. So I'm a licensed professional counselor, and my work is geared toward uplifting and rehumanizing specifically Black and Brown people. And my organization is called True Love Movement, and I've been doing beautiful work for the last decade with that organization. And I believe that revolution starts within us, and us being aligned with who we really are, and then connecting like that, just like my poem said. And I'm grateful to be here. And thank you for, allowing me to say, because I'm not going to hold any punches, because I don't do that. I just say what's true and what's real to me. And I always like being in spaces like this. So thank you for the ability, thank you for being here. Thank you for having me here. That's what I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ayana. All right, y'all. So I've got 2 questions for you tonight, and we'll roll them around. Again, we'll try to stick to the 2-minute time space in terms of answering the question. But we thought we were going to have 8 panelists, and we've got 4. So, if you want to dig a little deeper into something that you're talking about, I think we've got space for that. But our first question, I wanted to share that this is actually a question with the drama club up at LCIW. Whenever a new member joins, we ask them something. Let me just pause for a moment. We had a sergeant who works at OPP was going to join us this evening, and to where I just got word that she's not able to join us because her mother's house was messed up last night with the tornado. So send some extra prayers her way and her family's way. And hopefully she'll be able to join us in one of the next 2-week conversations. Thanks, Tuari. Back to these questions. Whenever a new person comes to join the drama club, we always ask, all right, what are you bringing to the table, and what are you hoping to receive from the group? So I want to ask y'all that. What are you? You've in introducing yourselves, you've kind of answered the first question, but I guess I want to invite you to go a little deeper with that. What do you feel like you're bringing to this table, and what do you hope to learn? Because a lot of you have been doing this for a long time. So what are you hoping to get that's new? Or we can't know what we're going to learn until we learn it, I reckon, right? But what do you hope to gain from this group? So I think I'll throw it to Rachel first.
All right. I think what I'm bringing to the table is an imagination without limitations about what's possible. I think the Travis Hill School is one of the first schools that has a full high school that offers high school diplomas to adults in an adult facility. And so there's a lot of things that we've done that people would say like you just can't do in a jail. And so that makes me believe that there's really nothing that you can't do in a jail, if people believe that the people living there are worthy of having a great education, of having great health care, of having access to everything that they would need to have their basic rights met, and also to have a transformative experience that allows them to be set up for success and to have a choice-filled life when they leave. So I think that's what I'm bringing, just an open mind and a belief that anything is possible and that people are deserving of the best possible programming, of choices, of transformation. I'm sorry for if you guys hear yelling in the background. I have 3 kids. I should have included that in my intro. They're just doing the most right now, of course. And what do I hope to learn? I'm so inspired by the work everyone here has done. I'm newer to this conversation, so I just want to learn from everyone's experiences, specifically how to get all the players on board who have to be on board to make programming happen. That's something that we struggle with at the school every day, and I'm sure there'll be more barriers to bringing something new in. So I'm just excited to hear from so many people who have done programming in so many places, how you've been able to do that.
Great. Thank you so much. Ayana?
Hi. So I apologize. Laurie told me that my earrings were in the way. Please let me know if you can't hear me. I'm in a community space. I think what I bring is a mental health understanding, and maybe, I can talk about what that means. I mean, I'm sure we all know, but I'll bring that to the table, that information and that understanding. And then I'd like to know more about what Arch is doing in the community. And so I would like to learn that. So yeah, that's my answer.
Great. Thank you. Laura?
Okay. I hope one of the things that I can bring is a bridge to the survivor and community. I think that's one of the things that has helped the Angola program flourish so much, is because I am a survivor of a violent crime, and I'm also work with victims advocacy groups, that I'm able to kind of be a bridge between harmed and responsible, and people who've been harmed and people who are responsible for harm. I have 20 plus years of teaching experience and facilitation experience, particularly with individuals who've been highly traumatized. And, being a certified compassion trainer, it is really useful. It's useful for self-compassion, it's useful for compassion for others, and sort of kind of keeping that word and that spirit alive in some of the conversations, because it can be hard and there can be resistance. So I guess one of the things that I'm hoping to learn is how to minimize some of the public resistance by helping to shape the narrative, by how we as a group can work to kind of shape the narrative of this work and put it in the public eye in a really positive way. So that there's growing support, as opposed to sort of, a lot of questions about the validity of a program like this. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Shikandria.
So I like, I guess, the combination of all those answers that came before me. I really feel like what I'm here to bring, I love what Rachel said about, the imagination and the idea of like infinite possibility. I feel like as an artist, that is definitely my lane. And as a poet, the idea of the power of words and what we speak, say, believe, the ability to write ourselves out of proverbial and actual bars and chains. I bring, I guess, a short amount of experience with working with individuals who are in the system and in seeing how just the idea of allowing people the space to express themselves is a freeing thing even before they're released, and how it's also something that they can use, a tool they can use after they get out into the real world. I've had so many people I work with who have published books since, or who've gone on to do something with their art, or they didn't even know that art was an option. So I'm really interested also in seeing what this organization does and other ways that I can be involved in making sure that creativity and art is has a place in reform and in people just being seen as human again and seeing themselves as human beings who have a voice that needs to be heard.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, all of that, all of that. If we can bring all of that to the people themselves who are behind the wall, and and keep it growing. And I love what y'all are also saying about bringing our whole society, our whole community into it, because from my perspective, so much of what's messed up about the prison industrial complex is the wall. Is that we are like just trying to erase these people or take these people out of our daily lives. So yeah, I really appreciate everything that y'all are saying there. For this next question, I'm going to say it out loud. There's a little bit of context because I'm kind of talking about Arch. And then rather than assigning y'all, I'm just going to ask you to speak as you feel moved to speak. Since we're a smaller group of panelists, I feel like, sometimes Zoom time, it's like, oh, the dead air. What do we do with the dead air? So I want to have this little experiment to let y'all speak as you feel moved to speak to this question. So a little context. Arts, racial justice, culture, and healing is the infusion that our small collective has designed as a necessary process to assist with true rehabilitative, consistent programming for those behind the wall. As artists, culture bearers, people directly impacted by the system, and tax-paying citizens, and everything else you bring to this work, how do you envision implementing the aforementioned, and why?
Can you say it one more time? The aforementioned, please.
Yeah, sure. As artists, culture bearers, people directly impacted by the system, tax-paying citizens, and everything else that you bring to this table, how do you envision implementing Arch? So I guess, thinking in terms of maybe going back to what Randy said about, getting a larger group of people together to really make something happen. We all have either led or participated in programs that are moving this needle forward, right? But here's an opportunity to connect to expand our circle, right? So going beyond small organizations doing this, what if we are a network of organizations doing this? How do you envision implementing this on a larger scale with more hands and feet doing the work?
I'll jump in. I'm just going to sort of riff a little bit here. The word consistency really stood out to me when you said that. Consistent programming, I think, is going to be essential. And with multiple organizations working together, I'm just going to go right to the sort of technical things. I think it's going to be essential to have not just consistent programming, but consistent oversight or administration, coordinators, managers of the program who can recruit the instructors, train instructors. Many of us have worked in prisons, but a lot of instructors who will be interested perhaps have not yet. And there are certainly things to learn in preparation. It's probably going to be really useful for the instructors to also for us to have time together in the creative process, so that we are doing the very thing together that we are also modeling and facilitating when we are offering workshops. So whether it be, an 8-week workshop or a semester-long workshop or a one-day workshop, I think those kinds of things can probably be very flexible. But the consistency of just having something available to spark the imaginations and creativity and opportunity for individuals to express themselves, that being the consistency, I think, is probably key. So I don't know if that kind of starts the answer, but here we go.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Laura. Yeah.
I'll add a piece. Thank you, Laura. I think to move it forward, there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of different things we could do, but I think letting it start from really, really young and understanding what life could be without prisons. And I know that sounds really, really broad and impossible, but that's the work that we did with Blackout. It's even just thought about what life would be without them. And if we started really young in that messaging to young people and children, adding that piece, and I really don't know, I need to study what Arch is doing or what it has done and what it means. As far as the programming, I really don't know, and I apologize, but it just occurs to me that the children need to know that they can envision a life without them, and what does that look like to them? And then, so that's what I'm adding to what Lara said.
One thing that I would add is I think anything that this group could implement should start with people who are currently being housed at OJC. So asking people there what type of programming would they like to see, what would their ideal opportunities look like, and getting their voice, since that's always a voice that's missing from these conversations. And then I also think for it to be consistent, it would be ideal to get, leadership from the facility on board and think about how it could benefit them as well, which I think it really would. I mean, there's so much violence inside the facility, and if people have things to do that are positive, then it makes the whole facility safer for everybody. So there's clear reasons why they would buy in as well. And then that's where you could get consistency, if people in charge believe that it's something that can make the facility better as well. But I think having like a council of people who are incarcerated to lead the work would be really, or at least advise the work would be really essential.
Yeah, that sounds really great. And I just before you jump in, Shikandri, I just wanted to go back and say, Ayana, that Arch is really new. We're so in terms of like what we do, we don't really know yet. Like this Zoom series is kind of our first action step together, and and so in many ways, y'all are now Arch, and I know that's it, but it also connects to what you're saying about starting young. I feel like in many ways our Arch is a baby, right? I think we just came up with the putting the words together in such a way that it made a word, happened like 2 weeks ago, I think. But and the wisdom in the room is not young, and that's really exciting. Just listening to you all tonight, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, we're young, but whoo, we're how people say, ooh, I wish I could have like elders say, I wish I could have that young body with all this experience. So maybe that's something that Arch can be, is like this young body, but it has a lot of experience. So I just wanted to throw that in there and pass it to you, Shikandria.
I don't think I had too much more to add than what Ayana and Rachel and Laura already kind of said. I think definitely it's important to have like the community's buy-in as well, or the community's involvement and support, because I mean, people are coming out of the communities and also going back into those communities. And I think having those who have maybe also been incarcerated before have input, especially those who may have what we call quote unquote success stories. But I do love the idea that Rachel said about having those who are in the system have their input, because if we want to talk about their voices being heard, what other way than first finding out what it is they need, because we can go implement things, all we want. And it may not necessarily be what people who are standing in need of our service actually need from us specifically. So I agree with both Rachel and Ayana about some kind of buy-in from all different aspects of the community. And again, like Ayana said, making sure that young people know that there is a possible world without incarceration. United States is definitely it's an anomaly to itself compared to other countries. You'd have to think like, what is it about this place that makes it such an integral part of who we are as a people, that incarceration is just like it's a part of the American fabric, and it definitely shouldn't and doesn't have to be if, again, people were just seen as human, and if we could find other alternatives to actually reform people as opposed to just punishment. So that's my input.
Thank you. Panelists, do y'all have anything more to add that like maybe someone said that sparked something in you that you're like, oh, or anything? Yeah, go Laura.
Yeah, I'm really I guess just so drawn to if we're going to dream big, to really think about that public component. You know, I mean, this program will be, obviously arts are healing for the individuals who participate in the arts, and they're also very perspective changing for people who get to witness or participate alongside the incarcerated artists. So, you know, when I think about of all the things that we've done in Angola, the best thing that we've done is bring people into Angola for shared workshops and shared fellowship. And then bring, you know, the words of people from Angola back out into the community. And so if we're thinking about ways to do that, so that, you know, you're talking about this wall that, you know, we have this literal wall, but if we find ways to sort of, you know, bring people back and forth, so that if there's a public component to every workshop, you know, some sort of either shared community workshop or a family event, or bringing the words back into the community, whatever it may be. I don't think there's probably anything more important than perhaps that aspect of it. If we're really thinking that this is going to do work on the outside of prison as well as do work on the inside, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was thinking, and Tueri knows about this, about the lyrics on Lockdown Tour. And as artists, we went into the prison. And I would really love to know, and I'm sure there's no data on it, just how impactful that actually was. But part of what we did, we shared with them our poetry, very powerful poetry about the prison industrial complex, but also we talked about the history of the prison industrial complex. And we did the education piece too. And a lot of times, you know, a lot of people don't know the history of the PIC. And so bringing that to the table too. Thank you.
Great. Thank y'all. We're basically at the shift into community comments and questions. So I feel like let's just go right there. So I want to invite it to anybody else in the room to say what you're thinking or add what you're thinking. Maybe before we throw new questions in, if there's anybody who wants to share something that's connected to this last conversation that we're having around what can implementation look like. I'd love to invite folks to share that. And when you speak, please say your name and just a little bit about how you come to be here tonight. Or maybe go, Lori, go.
Go, Lori, go. Hi, I'm Lori Brooks. I'm from the Prison Arts Project in California, and have had a tremendous career in this field for 32 years, and mostly in California, but also working in federal prisons. And so I got a flavor of working in some prisons federal prisons, but prisons in the South and just all over the country. Anyway, I just what I know is patience, persistence, and more patience. And I missed last week, and I'm glad to have the recording to rejoin and to see what this conversation has been so far. But it's such an interesting process, iterative process, where like the art, you've worked with the artists that come to you, that have this interest, that are drawn to this, and you do the training and stuff like that Lara was saying, and support them throughout and create community amongst the artists. That's one of the kind of silver linings of the pandemic, is that we're all familiar with working on Zoom. So we could, have meetings amongst our artists across the state and bring them together to talk about doing lesson plans on paper through a keyhole through the pandemic that really should be live. I mean, how do you teach music if it's not live? Anyway, just, you know, create kind of some community and some support and innovate. And we're creatives. That's what we do. So we work together and figure it out. And there's structure, and you have to work with a really messed up paramilitary organization that we don't really believe in, but you have to communicate with them and stuff. Communication. Anyway, I've gone long. But I'm really glad to be here, because I just think how this comes together is who's in the room, who's on the bus, who we're gonna, you know, who's in the classroom, you know, who's in the workshop. People are drawn to this so beautifully, and to embrace the human spirit, like Ayana's poem. I mean, just, you know, that hope of connection and mattering and getting to know. And it's, you know, it's an inside job, right? Anyway, like I said, I'm going to stop talking. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Lori. Does anybody else have some thoughts that you would like to add or offer? Tueri, you put some things in the chat about Louisiana's lovely statistics. New Orleans' lovely statistic being the #1 incarcerator and incarceratee in the world. Is there? I think there's an element of, wow, if we can figure this out here.
Yes, we can figure it out anywhere. Yes,
All
absolutely.
the walls will crumble.
This is literally ground zero.
Right.
This
So I just
is
wondered
this
if
is
you had
ground
any.
zero. Yeah, and I'm still dropping some stats in there, some facts in there too. I'm about to drop the stat on the children here. I'm glad that Rachel mentioned that about the age range from 10 to 21, because Louisiana starts incarcerated at 10 years old. That is a fact. To see that, you know, is you know, I don't know about anybody else. I know I'm not desensitized to it whatsoever, period. Every time I would leave Travis Hill, I sit in my car and I cry every time. I have children, you know, and we had been going, Ayana could tell you, going in that way before Travis Hill and before they had these fancy names and all this stuff, you know. But then when you have children, it's something different, you know. And when I started going into Travis Hill, like my staff was going there before I started going in there. I was trying not to go, and I started going, and I just, you know, the fact that I couldn't bring him home, and at the time my son was 10. So to see 10-year-old boys, what could they have done to be incarcerated? And in my mind, absolutely nothing. There's nothing that a child can do to me that will warrant them being incarcerated. Do they need help? Yes. But incarceration, no. And to add insult to injury, every single one of them are Black. Every single one of them are Black. You know, and so for me with Arch, the racial component was critical, or else I could not have been involved. It had to be a part of this, because that is the fabric of this country. That's the fabric. And it's not anything to brag on. It is sad. You know, I just put in there that, you know, about Black men, Black women, and Black children are the highest incarcerated people. That is a fact. Then white men. You have a whole family dynamic incarcerated. Imagine that. Lori knows this. You go in there, you have children, a son, grandfather, sometimes a great-grandfather, in Angola. All of them Black. You know what I mean? Like, what is that saying? You know, and every day I'm pulling statistics, you know, for things, and it's heart-wrenching. And I refuse to become desensitized to it. I refuse. I have to feel this, because that could be me at any given time. They don't care about my work. They don't care about all the initials I have behind my name. They could care less. To this, from the time my son was 5 and my daughter was 7, the police sirens go off, and my son would say, "Oh, mama, the popo coming," and they cowering. That's a thing for us. That's traumatic. It's a thing. Not even doing anything. They just know. And happen to give our children. Yana has 4 boys. Imagine they have to give all 4 of them the speech, the talk. Who wants to do that? I don't want to do that. I don't want them to be resilient. I don't want to be resilient. I want to be free of all of that. And that's a real thing. And that's why tying it into the arts is important. And we did it with Blackout. We knew that was brilliant to do that. People flock to the arts. So whether we did poetry, whether we did hip hop, whether we had people do skits in front of us, we just gave them the information. We broke down because we studied wherever we were going. I don't care if it was New York, it could be Texas. We studied the state. We studied the city we were in. We studied every place we were going. And we literally was in every prison around this country. We studied everything. And then we went and we gave them the stats, and they broke it all the way down into art. And then we took the information they gave us, what was going on in the prison, and we brought it to the next. And it worked. Like Ayana said, it's kind of hard to measure that because they're still there, right? So it's hard. So all you can hope for is that there was a positive takeaway from it. And especially going into the juvenile facilities where one of them that stuck with me was when we went to one in Houston, and the kids cried when we left. They cried. You know what I mean? And they're whispering stuff to us about abuse. And for me, I actually thought about when we shut down Tallulah in the 90s. And so this goes on around our country, and we still locking babies up. So I'm getting off my soapbox so I don't cry. I'm about to get back in the chat and just keep giving y'all some information.
Thank you, Tuweri. Thank you. Miriam, I don't know if you want to ask the question that you put in the chat or make a comment, but if you got multiple things, go ahead and go for it. Take the mic.
Sure. Thanks, Kathy. Also, just thank all of y'all for being in this space tonight. I mean, Terry, there's no reason we locking up babies. We got there's nothing you can do. Just because I think I only know a few of y'all in this room. Actually, I'm going to give a brief introduction. My name is Miriam Taylor. I come into this space from Tulane University, so I recognize there's a whole history there and a whole baggage that comes with that. I'm a curator over at the Newcomb Art Museum, and first got introduced to this work through the exhibition Persister, which Kathy and Laura were both a part of. And then when the pandemic hit, I decided to go back to get my PhD in urban studies, looking specifically at the responsibility of arts and culture institutions to communities of trauma, and what does that responsibility look like. I'm currently working with them on a follow-up exhibition talking about consistency and what does that look like. We had a big staff change during the pandemic. Our director left, and so we're now working on a follow-up exhibition looking at the impacts of incarceration on young people, working with multiple organizations, Mr. Ernest Johnson over at Ubuntu, LCCR, FLIC, and Operation Restoration, but also want to open that invitation up to everyone on the Zoom call tonight of what does it look like to put on an exhibition that is specific, calling out the fact that we lock up children and that's what we do. Anyway, so that's a bit of a background of kind of what I'm bringing into this space and where I'm coming from. The question that I shared with Kathy earlier, and I really have for the panelists is, there's a lot of organizations in town. There's a lot of different arts organizations in town that are doing this type of work, that attempt to do this type of work, sometimes successfully, sometimes not successfully, most of the time with an idea of harm reduction, but we all recognize that doing harm is possible. And especially whenever you're bringing up, issues of trauma, when maybe not everybody's has that background of how to go into that space. So my question really for everyone is like, what does collaboration look like? What does like true collaboration look like when you're bringing multiple organizations, multiple partners to the table? Recognizing different expertise, different experience. How do you build those partnerships? How do you build accountability, shared responsibilities, and stay in a beloved community and rising tide mindset the whole time? So y'all are the expertise, y'all are the experts in this. I'm just opening up that question.
Well, thank you, Miriam. Thank you for being here. I'm not an expert in this, that's for sure. Let me say, I've never seen it happen. I've never seen it happen. Even with Blackout, it fell apart after a while. Doing such beautiful work, beautiful work, touching people, touching lives, it fell apart. And so I've never seen it happen. I believe it can happen. I know it can happen. And I think humanity is a big piece. Right? We're doing this work for humans. We're doing this work for us. And if we can stay concentrated on the humanity of what it takes to build something huge, the consistency, everybody's talking consistency, and I'm saying humanity. Because we're doing this for humans, and it's like we could just put all of the stuff to bed, all of the political bullshit and but wait, I do this way, you do this way, and just focus on the humanity piece and our own selves and each other, the people who are locked, behind the wall. So that was just, I love to be a part of it. And I hate to see when egos get there but wait a minute, I know this and you don't know. We're doing this for humanity. So that's my piece.
I love that. I think that's the most important thing, like remembering why we're doing the work. And if we keep that humanity, the people that the work is for, central, then, that can keep everyone focused and help collaboration. I would also add humility to that. So knowing that there isn't just one way to do things, and the way we might do something is okay, but there's other ways to do it. And just because we've done something one way and it's worked for us doesn't mean there can't be other ways of being open to learning from each other and not having to do it our way. And then the only other thing I would add is just, and I've already said this, but I think true collaboration has to include people who are incarcerated. And I always hear about we have to get these organizations together and these people, but there's always that, seem to me like this obvious vacancy of a voice that's missing, and it's the most important voice. So I know with our school, we always include our students when we plan programming, when we do anything, we get their advice, because otherwise they're going to hate it. So I think it's really important when we think about collaboration to include that voice.
I just have a question. Is there like a database or network of people who are doing this work where you can kind of find who those thought partners could be that has like, this is, for example, Arch, and they specialize or do XYZ. This is blah, blah, blah. They do blah, blah, blah. Because I know sometimes being a teaching artist in these environments, sometimes I need references, resources, and it's sometimes very hard to find like where to go looking for those, because I don't have to reinvent the wheel if I know somebody who's done this work being a teaching artist in a juvenile detention facility, for example, which is, as we all know, completely different from working in the school system, but in a lot of ways, very much the same. So is there a way to have that particular network or database or like a hub where those doing the work can collaborate, and also how to bring the school system into this work too, because I feel like getting to the root of what all of it is, which we hear the term all the time, school to prison pipeline, but then I don't think there's a lot of collaboration between the educational system and those who we elect to be our officials, who are, you know, part of the school boards or part of the whatever, to also be involved in this work, because it is also their blood and time on their hands, blood and time on their hands as well, and people's lives on their hands, because it's kind of like the buck stops where they stop at school, and then people who are doing the reform work are left to do that work on the tail end. And I feel like it should be a collaborative effort if any change is going to be made. Period, because we all see the amount of money that's being made off of not only our students who are in the school system not being educated properly because everything's privatized, charter schools, whatever, and then now the privatization of jails and of prison systems. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm very much interested and would like to know, because I do plan to continue doing this work for as long as I'm able to.
Kathy, didn't we talk about that at one point? Trying to put together a major list and like put it on a website somewhere.
But the thing is that,
well, I just wanted to mention the. May I mention?
You're freezing up.
Am I freezing? I just wanted to mention this coalition. I see my friend Lori Brooks put something in the chat, and this is a national effort to collect the wisdom of artists who teach correctional system at any level, as well as people who are artists inside, who communicate through sending their art out, participating in exhibitions, their letter writing, pen pals, sorts of arrangements. A lot of this has really taken off during the pandemic, but there were ongoing classes and demonstrations of teaching artists how they were working in the current environment and otherwise. So it's a national network which people can join individually. They have a website and an e-group that you can join in order to get regular updates. Lori might know more about what's going on currently with that organization. In the summer of 2021, there was a national conference on Zoom, which was attended by a couple hundred people. And it followed on a series of national conferences that Lori and I had put together under the umbrella of California Lawyers for the Arts in California. Jean came to our last conference at Santa Clara University. But the Justice Arts Coalition has taken over that piece, and there's a lot of participation around the country. It's definitely worth checking out. Thank you for that question. Shakandria. I'm reading a little tiny print. Shakandria, did I say that right? Yeah, and so as to the other question about school to prison pipeline, this is really, really troubling. I don't know of any answers for that. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Well, I want to answer too, Icon too. So, yeah, I'm very familiar with the Justice Arts Coalition, but in New Orleans locally, you know, it's hard to do that. Going back to what both Ayanna and Rachel said too, the absence of humanity and humility. You know, New Orleans people in organizations are petty. And if people don't like you, you're not making the list. And that is a problem. And that's sad because it's not personal. This is about the work. And we forget that. I don't care if you don't like me. If we're doing the work, we're doing the work. Period. This is bigger than us. This is bigger than any one person. If we're talking truly about racial, social justice to bring about change so we can truly heal, it's not personal. And if you have a personal with somebody, talk about it on the side. Because we got work to do. We don't have time for the bullshit. We got to move forward. And and for me, that's an absence of humanity. That's you refusing to see, for us to see each other. It's an absence of the humility because you refuse to extend that grace. So you can't see the work. You know how when people say when somebody yelling and screaming, I just shut down because I can't go through all that. And I'm one that listens to it. I listen to people do their hollering and screaming because I know it's coming from a place. So I'm listening intently because they ain't just mad for no reason. You know what I mean? So it's coming from somewhere. Let me listen to them to find out why they're angry. So I want to really hear them. So I'm listening through all of that so I can figure out what's going on. And I know I get that from a few of my teachers who were there for me and told me I was going to be a teacher. And I was like, I'm not going to be a journalist, I'm not going to be a teacher. But I was one of those children who went to juvenile 4 times in New Orleans. 4 times. And came from a 2-parent household. So I'm about to bust up all y'all statistics. Came from a 2-parent household, middle class, educated parents. My grandparents were very, very comfortable and well known in this city. So that don't mean a thing. And I was my mom a wild child, still a spirited child to this day. And I'm almost 50. So those things don't mean anything. I've always been extremely smart. That probably was smart in the head and smart by the mouth. And but I was always fighting, always. And for reasons that I didn't know then, but know now, of depression. I hated bullies, and all of that. So, and I would show up at somebody else's school to fight. I didn't care. And went to juvenile 4 times. And the time before the last time I went to judge, so when you come back in here, I'm sending you away. And I went again. And my mom, my dad put me in the car. My mother sister stood on the back of our stairs crying. And because I was her hero. And got in the car, went to court, and I walked in the court and saw one of my teachers sitting there. And I'm looking at her and she looking at me. And, back then in New Orleans, our teachers were in our neighborhood. We had the best schools, but we had the best teachers. And we had teachers who didn't play with us. I went to public school. I went to Catholic school too, but I went to public school. And they weren't afraid of us. They weren't afraid to get on us. They weren't afraid to love on us. And Miss Clementine Rubin, the Lord Nightwall, did both. And she sat there and she was looking at me like, I don't know, she's looking at me for you better face front. That I read in her face. And I turned around to the judge. The judge said her piece. And she had my report card in front of the judge was in disbelief. And I had got a partial scholarship to Dillard University, and she reading all that. And Ms. Rubin asked me, she speaks, said, who are you? She said, I'm my English teacher. And she said, I want to read a letter. And she read the letter, and I remember a part letter saying, not this one. Y'all can't have her. And most of my teachers had signed that. I'm trying to cry, had signed that letter. And for them to stand up for me because they saw something in me that I refused to see in myself said a lot. And I'm saying that to say that the humility that they extended to me after everything that I was a terror, the humility that was extended to me in that time is the same that we have to extend to each other to do this work. This shouldn't be about making the cut. This is not American Idol. If we're doing the work, we're doing the work, period. Everybody that's doing it should be on the list. So people like Icon can follow up on that list and grab information from those folks that she needs so she can move forward. So folks like Alma, who live 3,000 miles away, can go to that local list and grab folks. And I have to look around and try to figure out who's who. So we don't have one person saying like they're the end all or be all, because that's not true. I've been doing this work since I was long. I've been a teacher for over 25 years in New Orleans, an educator. But I've been doing this work longer than that. With political press, starting out with the Angola 3. I was one of the original members of the Angola 3 Coalition. Bobby King is like a dad to me. And so coming up under them, learning all of this information, standing in this space and in this fight and doing all this work is important to me. And I know it's important to y'all because y'all wouldn't be here if it wasn't. So those lists are important to have. So we have to have, again, when Rachel said that humility has to exist. It has to. It has to. That humanity that we have for each other has to exist, period. We have to start seeing each other. We have to learn from each other. And that's what has made Arch to me, for me, so beautiful and powerful, because we struggle with each other. We have intense conversations, I'm telling you. But at the end of the day, we bring it together because we understand this is bigger than us. And that is the beauty of it. And again, I'm about to get off my soapbox because I'm sitting over here literally crying. But I'm telling you, to work with Kathy, Matt, Jean, Alma has been just some of the most refreshing, one of the most refreshing opportunities I've ever had, coming back into New Orleans and doing this again with folks here. And because I've been, since I've been back, I've been doing, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, really, y'all still up to click stuff? And that's not what this is right here. Is what for us is really just learning each other. That's it. And having this appreciation for each other. Not that you don't know better than me. You don't know. We don't have that. It's other stuff that we struggling with, but we rise to the occasion every single time. So, and I love them for that, so just to kind of piggyback on that, we have to create that list. And I think all of us on here, Laura, Miriam, Icon, Megan, we will start going to work on creating that list.
Beautiful. On that note, I'm looking at our time. Thank you, Tuweri. Thank you for sharing that personal story with us. It's huge, and it's right at the heart of all of this. And I gotta close this out, but I just gotta say one thing about that, the rifts. We have restorative justice practitioners, professionals. We have resources, and I'm like, but we don't use we don't use them on ourselves, like what would it look like to actually try to heal some of these rifts, I mean, because the reason these rifts happen is because we still live in a, forgive my French, fucked up United States of America, and so the trauma, we none of us can assist it. And so, yeah, I guess I would love, so Arch needs to write a list. Arch needs to heal past rifts within ourselves and other people in this community. If we're going to dream big, let's dream big and let's do it all. So on that note, I just put in some questions in the chat. I think because we're out of time, maybe I'm going to leave these questions here. And those of you, we have an amazing poet who is going to close us out. Icon is going to close us out with another beautiful piece. So I want to go straight to that. And I want to make the offer that for anyone who can stay a little bit later, who would like to stay a little bit later and contemplate these questions and write your answers into the chat, please do so. And if you need to jump off immediately, please jump off. And Matt has just offered that he can send these questions out in the future. So the invitation is open, but right now, let's come back to the reason we are all here, the art and the divine inspiration that comes through the artist to the rest of the humanity with humility and beauty and creative expression. Icon, take the mic.
Thank you. Thank y'all again for this conversation. I know it's just a starting point, but I myself definitely needed to know that there is a hub of people out there collaborating to do the work, and also including new people like myself, so that I could get some guidance into what I can do. Looking forward to working with Rachel again this summer. So I just want to share something. I always have worked for the most part with incarcerated men. I haven't had the opportunity to work with many women yet, but I always take time out to write something for those who I work with. And one of the facilities I was working at, we had a slam team, a poetry slam team, which is my forte, or where I kind of got started. So we had a poetry slam team of young, brilliant men, and it was called Chained Reaction. They named themselves, and I would bring some of my college students who I was coaching in to actually slam against my incarcerated guys, and my incarcerated guys won every single time. So this is just something I wrote for Chained Reaction, and then I'm gonna close it out with something I wrote for some of my young men who I work with that were at another facility. So this is and the walls came tumbling down for Chained Reaction. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. I shall not be moved. And one of the men spoke. And when he spoke of several lifetimes in one sentence. His mouth, a clock with no hands, said he'd always dreamed of performing his poetry, just not in this fucking place. Another man said only 20 grams put him here, didn't realize his entire worth could be measured on a scale. Another young man is also stolen time. Only a little after 20, his name been locked inside metal file cabinets and between manila folders since he was only a quarter past, looks just like one of my little cousins, all baby face and grown man ambition. Said he couldn't understand how things that are meant to grow are expected to do so in cages. Almost every man said he hadn't seen his kids and grandkids in what feels like forever or too much time. Only got to see them grow older through fading photos taped to cement walls. Wondered if they bloomed or wilted without him being there to help water the land. Another man said he never had a green thumb anyway. Said even his own father was more shank than shovel. They all had a way with words. All said that when you've got nothing but a detonator for a brain, ticking with nothing but numbers, sometimes words are the only sand you ever see inside the hourglass. One man said he has an antique shop full of cuckoo clocks left and would most certainly die surrounded by nothing but time. But some of the men lifted him up in their voices and said, no, brother, not today. Not while we still have these words to build sandcastles with. No, not today. No, not today. You will not die. Not while you can still grind metal between your teeth until the entire prison turns to dust. So this is for Brian. This is for Diego. This is for Evans, Jamiron, and Jaheim. Even when it seems you are prisoners, I see potential. potent power packed inside Black boy brilliance, the kind that makes others fear us. See, you fear less, forced into a world where you've had to fight just to exist. And here you are, even after all of this, you be living, breathing, even away from home. So this is for Bradley, David, Deontay, Terrell, and Tyrone. Even when it seems you are prisoners, I see you as a poem. Hotline after hotline, you that smoke, yeah, you that fire, that flame that came to bring light to a world of darkness, veins pumping royal blood. Even though the world calls you heartless, you got divine DNA despite what others say. So this is for Cameron, Devin, Jamar, Wyman, Rashid, and Deontay. This is for Rashad, Isaac, Ivan, Ladarius, and Jonte. Even when it seems you are imprisoned, I see you as a prism of beautiful Black pigment and possibility. Even though the system tries to separate and divide you, I see you as Umoja. I see you as unity. I see you with no chains, for they cannot contain the greatness that you be. Yeah, young Black boy brilliance, I see you. I see you the way God created you, for I see you free. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Icon. Can we give like a huge round of applause for Icon, and for Ayana, and for Rachel, and for Laura, and for Tuweri and Matt and Jean and Alma for being in this circle, and for the rest of you who have joined tonight. Thank y'all so much. Yeah, we got some work to do together, and it's
And for Kathy.
it's gonna work. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Those of you who need to leave, please do so. Those of you who want to stay and answer these questions, please do so. I got nothing but love for all of y'all. This is number 2 of 4. We got 2 more to go, so spread the word. Matt is going to reach out with other ways to spread the word and let others know and keep us posted about who needs to be in this circle. Everybody needs to be in this circle, right?